Hello everyone, Ember Power here and welcome back to a new video. In this one I'm going to be going over all the cards that were revealed for the set Scarlet EX. So I've decided to split this review into two parts. Hopefully I'll have both uploaded at the same time, but if not, it is what it is. But basically this is just to have more of a slower overview of both sets because there's a lot to review basically. So getting started with the Scarlet EX translations, we have a Caxini and Cacturn line. Both of these Pokemon fairly underwhelming. They say that if they're damaged, you put 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. Pretty meh, to be honest. It's okay in GLC, I guess, but yeah, pretty bad, which is a shame because the artwork is very cool, but yeah, pretty bad cards overall. We also see a Scudo Go-Go line, but in typical Go-Go fashion, the cards are terrible. So yeah, 110 for 3, pretty bad. We also see a Smoliv line. Something you'll notice for the Scarlet and Violet TCG is that there seems to be a lot of variants of the basics that evolve. So there should be like 1 or 2 variants of most Pokemon that are evolving. So something to bear in mind, I guess. But yeah, 50 HP, 2 for 30, or, this one heals 30, I guess. Something to consider for Mini League, I guess, is some of these basics, you could consider. But yeah, pretty bad overall right now. But we do have the Dolive that has the attack Oil Pour that says during opponent's next turn, if the defending Pokemon tries to attack, your opponent flips a coin. If tails that attack doesn't happen. I don't think these attacks have ever seen play in the past, although the artwork is very nice. We also see Arboliva. Sorry, I've not played these games. I don't know now how to pronounce any of these Pokemon, but the Oil Pokemon. I'm just going to call this the olive Pokemon, I guess. That's easier. Has the ability to fill oil. It says, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during a turn, you may heal all damage from one of your Pokemon. So it's a nifty ability in a format where there's not going to be any like max potions or anything, but truthfully, these abilities typically don't see play because it's on a stage 2, so you have to rare candy up to it or slowly build up one of these on the bench. Hope your opponent doesn't boss it or anything, so yeah, I think I'd rather just Cheryl, to be honest. Seems like much better value. But yeah, I guess it's something to bear in mind in the future. We then see a Torkoal, which has a pretty cool attack. Flip a coin for each Phalange you attach to Pokemon, does 80 damage for each heads. So it's kind of like one of these silly meme decks where you try and stack a load of energy on your one Pokemon, put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and just try and flip a bunch of heads. Is it that good, though? No, not really. We're also losing Glimwood Tangle, which is a bit of a shame, but, kind of sucks, but we are losing Glimwood. So yeah, the attack's not great. There's not really many ways to accelerate energy to this apart from Magma Basin, I believe. So yeah, not really feeling it for Torkoal, which is a shame, but yeah, not a very good card. We also see a Charcadet, which I will say I love the artwork, and it does have the Ember attack, so of course I'm going to be a bit more biased, but 30 damage, discard energy, nothing too important over here, but cool artwork. We also see an Armor Edge, which has the ability Fire Alarm that says, as often as you like during your turn, you may move a Phalange card attached to one of your bench Pokemon to your active. So it's a pretty cool ability, actually. It means that you can Magma Basin energy onto a bench Pokemon and damage them, and then move the energy to the active. So if you didn't want to damage your Arcanine EX or your Charizard V-Star, I guess, then yeah, that's pretty good. It's also moving it to a non-fire type active, like it doesn't specify your active Pokemon has to be fire type as well, which is kind of cool. So you could, in theory, use like Basin and stuff to accelerate to the bench fire types, and then use Armor Edge to move it to the active, which is cool. But yeah, not really seeing any major applications of this, at least initially. It's also a stage 1, which means you have to get a lot of value out of this card for it to be worth it, because you don't want to be playing multiple stage 1s in a deck, and typically you have to if you're playing an EX or V-Star deck. So yeah, could be pretty clunky, but it does seem like a very good ability, and once again, love the artwork. We also see a Magikarp line. I absolutely love this Magikarp artwork. It's probably one of my favorites I've ever seen of a Magikarp. 30 HP though, still weak as ever. Leap, flip a coin, if heads attack does 10 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Admittedly, not the worst attack I've ever seen on Magikarp, so I guess they're getting slightly better with these guys. But Gyarados EX, so one of the only terrestrial types from the Scarlet and Violet, so there's going to be an Arcanine, and then there's going to be a Gyarados terrestrial type. Hopefully we'll get to see more terrestrial Pokemon in future sets, like 3 or 4, but It seems to be we're only getting 2 in the base set. So Terrestrial, unfortunately, seems to be that this Pokemon doesn't take any damage from attacks while on the bench. Such a waste of a mechanic, honestly. If this really is all they're doing with this, then it's just such a waste. Like, the artwork is amazing, but it really doesn't make up for the fact that it's such a wasted mechanic. I mean, changing a Pokemon's type in the main games is such an important aspect of them, and yet it translated to bench protection for some reason, and it's like, yeah, it's just really weird to me. I would have thought they'd do at least dual types, you know, how like they did them back in Steam Siege or something, or Ancient Traits, or like maybe a different effect for each typing or something, but nope, just give them all bench barrier and call it a day. I'm hoping we see terrestrial Pokemon who have, you know, different typings, but doesn't look too good right now. So what does Gyarados actually do? Enough rambling. So Gyarados, 300 HP right off the bat is like very tanky for a stage 1 EX Pokemon that gives up 2 prize cards. Is like Regigigas territory hit points. Waterfall doing 100 damage for 3 water energy is absolutely terrible. I'm pretty sure there's like GX Pokemon that did damage like that. But the second attack, Tyrannical Tail, for 3 water, 2 colors, so 5 energy, does 180, and if your opponent's active is already damaged somehow, this attack does 180 more. So regardless of how they're damaged, you still do 360, which is obviously just going to KO anything in the format, regardless of HP buffs or anything. So yeah, pretty ridiculous attack. Needing 5 energy, though, is super expensive. I'm trying to think of like ways you can power this up. There is like Palkia and Kyurem could be an option. I was thinking about, I know this is like a pretty bad idea, but what you can do is put a Diancie in the active, so your opponent can boss around Diancie. Then you use a Blastoise from Pokemon Go to accelerate 6 energy from the deck, and it can include special energy, so you could get like Wash energy before it rotates, and V-Guard energy to take even less damage from Vs. So use Blastoise to accelerate 6 energy from the deck to your Magikarp. Blastoise does enter a turn, so that's important to remember. And then the following turn, because your opponent couldn't boss up your Magikarp with 6 energy attached to it because he had Dance in the active, you just evolve to Gyarados and then, yeah, just start swinging. Problem is, you still need to damage them already to get the 1-hit KOs, so it's a bit of a strange Pokemon. If we ever see something like a Shrine of Punishment reprint come back or something that damages Pokemon in between turns, that could be really good here, but yeah, it's just an expensive card. Honestly, it's one of the worst EXs we've seen overall, sadly, which is a shame because I'm like one of these people who really likes Gyarados, but yeah. Also, retreat cost 1 is just, yeah, that's copium right there. Yeah, it's copium. But yeah, moving on, we see some Breezel Floatzel line. Floatzel has a Hydro Pump attack, 50 plus 20 more for each water energy. It's kind of like one of these Pokemon that's going to see play in like cube draft style formats, but nothing else. Like, that's not even good enough for GLC. It's just so bad. But yeah, I was thinking maybe this Floatzel could be okay in something like EAB, which I've not done a video yet, so that wouldn't make any sense. We'll not talk about that, but still, not really doing enough. So yeah, once again, love the artwork. The artwork's like all amazing in my opinion for Scarlet and Violet. They've really knocked out the park with this one. But yeah, Floatzel, nothing too great. We also see Bruxish. So happy to see my man Bruxish. Been a while, hot minute I think, since I've seen a Bruxish card. Has the attack of Vivid Charge, says search your deck for up to 3 basic energy, reveal them, put them into your hand. Too bad. I thought that said you attach them or something. I guess that would have been too good, but yeah. Searching a deck for 3 energy, meh, it's okay. We also see a Wiglet with the attack Twist, which is basically just a typical agile attack for the kind of heads who get immunity. Love the artwork, almost looks like he's on the moon or something. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't want to hear any dirty jokes about Wiglet, but yeah, he's a pretty funny guy. We also see this other Wiglet that has the attack Dig a Bit. Flip a coin of heads, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Yeah, that's like absolute garbage because like, right, the thing is with this attack, right, I don't know what it was, came back. Either way, Dig a Bit says flip a coin if heads, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Pretty bad when so many other attackers just discard the top card of our opponent's deck for 1 energy, you know, no other setbacks. So Wiglet, pretty bad card overall. But then we see wugtrio has the attack Sea Tunneling. Flip 3 coins for each heads, discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. So we do lose Glimwood Tangle, but if we ever find a way of accelerating 3 colors energy, this could be pretty good. So yeah, I'm a big fan of wugtrio. But yeah, then we'll go the audio back. So sea tunneling, flip 3 coins, 3 heads, score top 3 cards opponent's deck. Yeah, we do need a way of attaching energy and accelerating 3 energy to use sea tunneling, but milling up to 9 cards potentially if we can flip 3 heads. I mean, even just milling 6 cards is really good. So if we just have a way of powering this guy up, then I could foresee wugtrio being pretty good. And we did talk about armorage earlier, so in theory, what you could try and do is Magma Basin to something on the bench, armorage it up to your wugtrio, and then, I don't know, you could like Raihan, attach an energy, attach another energy from hand, you could use double turbo. It's a whole bunch of different ways to accelerate energy to wugtrio, so yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like, well, it's no Durant, obviously, but I don't know, flip 3 coins for each head to discard 3. I don't know. This could be pretty nasty. I'm just saying, like, mill up to 9, 6 potentially. Seems pretty good. Dondozo, however, could be one of the best single price Pokemon that we've seen in a long time. Has the attack Vent Wrath for 2 colorless energy that says, this attack does 50 damage for each Tatsugiri in your discard pile. Dondozo also has 160 HP, so he's pretty tanky basic Pokemon. I love a little Tatsugiri there. Didn't notice that the first time I looked at it, but yeah, Dondozo, 160 HP, Vent Wrath, 50 for each Tatsugiri. Pretty solid damage output. Just means you have to get your Tatsugiri in the discard pile, which should be pretty easy. Tatsugiri also has the attack preparations that for a single water energy allows you to search your deck for up to 2 basic water energy attached from one of your bench Pokemon. So you could just power up 1 Dondozo with a Tatsugiri, and then you just use basic water energy for the rest of the game and like EXP share loops potentially. So there is a way you could do that without having to worry about attacking with double turbo to do less damage with Vent Wrath. So yeah, honestly, I'm a big fan of this Dondozo. I think it could be pretty good. There's also like a world where you pair this up with dark type attackers like Glaring Moltres if you want a slightly better late game. You know, I think this could be a really solid deck, honestly. Really solid one prize archetype. So yeah, I think Dondozo Tatsugiri could be really good. But yeah, moving on. So then we have Wartrell that has the attack Collect, draw a card, or for 2 energy, Glide does 20 damage, and then a Wartrell that does 20 damage for a single lightning energy, so you kind of have to choose which one do you want. Plenty of new cards to mini league, I guess, but yeah, pretty bad. Kilowattrel is just bulk, unfortunately. Ralts is okay. There is a better Ralts, I think, one that says you choose one of your opponent's attacks and they can't use it or something. But Courier is pretty underwhelming because we do have the Mirage Steps Courier that says search your deck for up to 3 other Courier and put them onto your bench. And then there is the Trade Courier that says once in your turn, you may discard a card from your hand to draw 2 cards. So definitely got better options in that regard. So yeah, definitely got the Courier line to look out for because God of War EX. So it has the ability Psychic Embrace, says as often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic Psychic Energy from your discard pile to one of your Psychic Pokemon. If you do, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. You can't use this ability on a Pokemon that would be knocked out by those 2 damage counters. So a very strong ability, just means you can essentially charge up any amount of energy you want from the discard pile. It does come at the cost of placing a lot of damage counters on them though. So you kind of can't use this to accelerate energy to a tanking Pokemon. It has to be something that's kind of squishy enough for the 2 damage to not to matter, but also to the point where you're not just making them a squishy, fragile thing that's probably only going to last a turn. Although you could argue that maybe using this to accelerate energy to Pokemon that's going to get knocked out anyway is perfectly acceptable. So, you know, Psychic Embrace, I think there's a lot to like about this ability. Problem is that I found in testing is that what Earth do you pair this with, right? Because Shadow Rider seems a wee bit too clunky, and also you don't want a 3-prizer which has like less than 300 hit points. There's the Mewtwo V-Star, which I've thought about, but even then that's not super appealing because it's a wee bit clunky. I thought about maybe just attacking with Shining Arcana God of War, but then that doesn't do enough damage, so yeah, it's a bit iffy, honestly. I'm not sure like where the hype really comes from this card, honestly. I think you could maybe accelerate all the energy to yourself and then switch into a YD or something. That might be worth trying out, but yeah, right now not super sold on Gardevoir. I think there's like better options from the set to use, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being really good. Abilities like these often are good, but on a stage 2 does have me a little bit worried. Drifloon has the rather interesting attack Bloom Bomb, actually does 30 damage for each damage counter on Drifloon, so you could potentially do what, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, I guess. Like 180 for 2 psychic energy, assuming you put them all, well, you have to pay more than 2 energy, but you could certainly put 5 energy on there with Gardevoir potentially, so yeah, I don't hate this, honestly. Wait a minute, you only need 3 energy to do the full damage. Okay, that's cool. So like Drifloon could be an okay one prizer actually with Gardevoir. There's something to consider. There's also the Drifloon that has the attack spread curses, put 8 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. It's alright. It's decent spread damage, allows you to knock out a Comfey and stuff, but 3 energy is a bit pricey, and if you're pairing this with Gardevoir, it sounds ultra clunky, so yeah, it could be okay. I'll just worry about setup and stuff like that. We also have a Dedenne, 30 damage for Pecoin Fed's Scarlet Energy, pretty bad. We have 2 Fidos and a Dash Bun, so this is like the new Flower Dog Pokemon, I guess. Well-Baked Body, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's fire Pokemon, and this Pokemon cannot be burned. So like, a dual ability, 2 effects in one, very cool to see, but the ability is just like, meh. It's just meh. Flittle, fun fact, I didn't know that Flittle actually evolved. I thought it was just a non-evolving basic, and I thought this bird here, Espathra, was just a non-evolving bird like Flamigo, but apparently not. It does evolve. So, Flittle, start off 40 HP is absolutely abysmal. You don't want to have low HP in this game anymore. Espathra has the attack Insight during your opponent's next turn, and defending Pokemon can't retreat. Yeah, it's okay. Could be okay in like a control style deck. Psychic, 30 damage, and then 50 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Pretty devastating move, actually. This is like one of the best cards from the set for EAB, funnily enough. But for any other format, probably not. I mean, GLC maybe, but yeah, 30 plus 50 modifier is pretty extreme in certain matchups. I mean, if you think about attackers that are using 3 energy, you're already swinging for 180 for 3, which is pretty good. So I like the fact it also has free retreat. So this card is very scary to me for EAB, but it's definitely not like on the radar for standard or anything like that. We also have a Meditite that goes through resistance. Fun little card for Mini League, maybe. We see Mediachan that is doing nothing. Bad card. We also see a Riolu that does 50 and 20 to itself. A Lucario, which has the attack Vengeful Knuckles. 30 damage if any of your fighting Pokemon were knocked out by damage from attack from your opponent's Pokemon during their last turn. This attack does 120 more damage. So it's okay. It's okay. Like it's not amazing or anything. I think like the what is it, the Lucario from Brilliant Stars that has the Roaring Resolve, I think that's just 10 times better, but doing 150 is admirable, admittedly, you know, with a choice belt you're up to like 180 and stuff, so I quite like Vengeful Knuckles as an attack. I think it's pretty solid, but ultimately you can't really use it in a Zoroark box because it has to be, if a fighting Pokemon has to have been knocked out, so I guess you could like go Zoroark into Lucario Brilliant Stars, do a massive blow up move, and then once they knock one of your Lucarios out, you switch into this Lucario because you can run like, you can afford to run a 2-2 line or something in Zoroark, and then you can just swing with Vengeful Knuckles as more efficient damage, so I guess there's that to like about it, so maybe there is a home. There's also like Lucario EX to consider, so yeah, maybe it's not that bad. Sandile is meh. Krokorok is also meh. And then Krookodile has the attack Voracious Bite, 50 damage for becoming to get tails, reach heads, Scarlet Energy attach your opponent's active Pokemon. Pretty gross attack in EAB, pretty gross attack in GLC. Just a pretty gross attack in general, probably too slow for standard, unfortunately. 170 hit points is still too low for a stage 2 Pokemon in my opinion. I think they should still be higher, but yeah, seems pretty meh. Earthquake doing 180 for 2 fighting energy and then 30 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. Still not knocking out all the evolving EX, Vs, or whatever, so... And you're nowhere near, like, stage 1 EXs, of course, so... Yeah, not a big fan of this Krookodile. Could be okay, maybe somewhere down the line, GLC, EAB, that kind of thing, but yeah, not a fan of this in current standard. We see a Howlucha, which has the ability Flying Entry. When you place a Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during a turn, you may choose up to your opponent's opponent's bench Pokemon, put 1 damage counter on them. So this is like the spiritual successor to Zigzagoon. Very good ability. It's not as it's not splashable as Zigzagoon because obviously we lose net and Zigzagoon could target the active, which was like one of the major appeals of it. But Flying Entry, still doing 1 damage counter to 2 Pokemon. It's still a very strong ability, and I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up seeing a lot of play, either on release or somewhere down the line, because it's a very strong ability and it's on a basic. So yeah, I could definitely think Hawlucha's got some good potential somewhere, but yeah, we'll have to see how it goes for Hawlucha. Silly Cobra is meh. Sandaconda, 4 energy, discard 2 energy, and your opponent shuffles their active into their deck. Yeah, it's pretty bad. There's a Cloth that has the attack Adrenaline Hammer, does 130. This Pokemon is now confused. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Great Tusky X has the attack Bedrock Breaker, does 40 damage, discard a Stadium card in play, and then Gigantotusk does 250 and then 50 to itself. So what we can do is try and use Koraidon EX's Dino Cry in order to accelerate 2 basic fighting energy from your discard pile. It will end our turn, but it's a way of accelerating energy to use Gigantotusk. We also have the Claydol engine from Silver Tempest. Will require you not to have any supporters in your discard pile, but if you can find a way to make that deck work, then maybe this is a good partner for Claydol, because it's kind of like low energy requirements, has a lot of HP, is pretty tanky. Also, swing for 250 is really solid. Means that if you have like a Defiant Band or a Choice Spell, you can hit up to 280 as well, which is a key number. So I'm honestly a bit of a fan of this one. Also, the 40 damage is just nice chip damage, getting you through some evolving basics and being able to have a bit of stadium control as well. So yeah, I kind of like this card. I understand why people think it's really bad, but yeah, I'm kind of sold on this one. I think it could be pretty cool. You'll see the Koraidon EX, which has the ability Dino Cry. It does end your turn, but being able to accelerate fighting energy is always going to be desirable in a format where fighting types basically have 0 support now. So yeah, it's a pretty strong ability if it works. Obviously, we do need to use this like turn 1, so if we like go Ultra Ball, discard an energy and something else, find a Radiant Greninja, discard a fighting energy, or we use Ultra Ball to find the Pokemon that we want to accelerate this to. It could be okay, honestly. I don't hate the ability, I just need to test it out in order to get a gauge of how consistent it is, really, and also like how relevant this thing will be, because it's weak to Psychic, so it is going to be weak to Mew, so you'll have to take in those Drapions. But yeah, should be an okay card, but yeah, nothing too amazing. We also see a Grimer that does 50 damage for 3, and your opponent is now poisoned. Yay. Muck has the ability Poison Sacks. The special condition Poison is not removed when your opponent's Pokemon evolve or de-evolve. It's an okay ability, actually. Typically, these abilities don't see a whole ton of play involving Poison, because Poison just doesn't do enough damage anyway. But Poison Sacks, nice ability to keep around. Pretty decent if Poison ever gets really good. Seviper has the attack Venoshock that for 1 dark or double colors does 60, and your opponent's act does Poison, attack does 120 more. Sadly, we do use Twin Energy, so we'd have to use like basic Dark Energy, Double Turbo, or something awful like that. But if we did ever power this guy up, 180 plus Poison takes it to 190. Then going back into your turn is like 200 or something. So it's not the awful attack, honestly. I don't think a Quartz Viper deck or anything like that would ever work, but certainly is like a tech card in a Poison build, especially like if you're building a Poison GLC deck or something. This could be a really nice option, just to smack for massive damage, especially Poison damage. Yeah, I kind of like the Seviper a lot. There's a Krogunk with the attack Beat that does 10 damage, and then Whap Down 40 for 3. Pretty bad. Toxicroak EX, so we finally see another EX Pokemon. 250 HP right off the bat is pretty weak, honestly. This is like nearly 240, which is very, very low. So yeah, pretty weak HP wise. Has the attack Nasty Plot, search your deck for up to 2 cards, put them into your hand. It's okay. Problem is it's on a stage 1 EX, so yeah, maybe not so good for Nasty Plot. But Toxic Ripper, 1 dark, 2 colors, 120, your opponent's act is not poisoned, put 6 damage counters instead of 1 on that Pokemon between turns. So yeah, that's like a solid effect to have. I mean, you're hitting like 180, assuming your opponent doesn't switch out or evolve. I mean, we do have the Grimer as well, the Muck shot, sorry. So you can hit like what, 180, and then they come back in, they take another 60. and then we have to factor in you could hit them again for 120, or maybe Boss K or something else with Toxic Ripper. So I think this could be okay, honestly. Nothing like too grand. We also have like the Radiant Sneasler as well to boost poison damage. Yeah, I don't think this is terrible. I just don't see poison being very good, even in an evolution heavy format. So yeah, HP's getting lower, but yeah, I don't think poison will be that good. We see a Pawnyard line, which now that Bishop evolves probably means that we'll never get a good standalone Bishop card again. But King Gambit does have the ability Generalship that says, as long as this Pokemon is in play, the attacks of your basic Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active. Really strong ability, honestly, because it's not like Ludicolo, where Ludicolo is plus 100, but Ludicolo is not permanent, it's only for one turn, and we are losing Scoop Up Net. So if you think about Suicune or something that wants to have a plus modifier in play, if we can rare candy a King Gambit, then this is always going to be a plus 30 and then plus 20 for just sitting on the bench. So something like a Suicune, Entei, Raikou deck will probably really like King Gambit. You could also like throw in all other attackers in that deck, like the Radiant Zard or something, to do 280 constantly. So yeah, I could see King Gambit being a pretty decent tech card. Maybe just a fun one because it is, of course, a stage 2 because we have to like row candy into it. But yeah, it has decent synergy with basics. But speaking of Suicune, we do actually see a Vroom line, and we see a card called Reverum. So this guy has the really cool ability, Rumbling Engine. You must discard energy from your hand in order to use the ability. Once in your turn, you may draw until you have 6. So it's like an improved Boo Barrel, but we do have to discard an energy in order to use it. Very strong ability because it has decent synergy with stuff like Greninja, Radiant Greninja. Also has synergy with, well, not Radiant Greninja, I don't know why I said that. It does have synergy with stuff like Melanie. It does have synergy with Dark Patch, Magma Basin, anything that interacts with the Discord power, really. So I do like this ability. Plus, everyone has the same, like, everyone can meet the ability requirements of Greninja, right? So Greninja was discard energy, draw 2. This is discard energy, draw up to 6. So I could definitely see this card seeing play in something like a Suicune deck where you want to discard the energy to then Melanie to the active or something. So yeah, big fan of Reverum. I do like it a lot. I think it's better than Bibarel potentially. Zangoose is weak. Starly is Play-Doh. Starvia is Bad Bird. And Staraptor is pretty meh. Spin away, 60 damage. Your opponent's next turn prevent all damage done to Pokemon by a basic Pokemon. That's like an okay effect to have. Immunity from basics is always nice in the format, but yeah, being a stage 2 requiring 2 colorless energy is, yeah, it's pretty bad for a stage 2. We also see 2 Lechonks, so we are indeed blessed with more Lechonk. Can't say I'm not happy with that. You know, love Lechonk. He's one of my favorite Pokemon now, so love that. We do also see an Oinkology, which has the attack Fragrance Fury, 10 damage, and then 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So if they have a full bench, we're doing what? 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 160, potentially, which is decent in the mid to late game when your opponent's definitely going to have a lot of bench Pokemon out. So could be a nice little tech card in something like the Zoroark deck or something similar where you just need a colorless Pokemon to hit big damage. Weakness to fighting is a bit of a worry, and you're not hitting anything else for weakness, but yeah, I do like Fragrance Fury as an attack. Seems pretty solid. Then Heavy Stamp, 210 flip a coin of heads. Pokemon can't attack. Yeah, pretty bad. Just like worse Arceus, really. But Fragrance Fury, yeah, seems solid. Then we just get on some of the trainers. Palpad, we've seen this all before. Shovel 2 supporters. Just an okay card to have in this format, really. Nestball's a nice one. Definitely a good card. We'll see a lot of play, be a staple, all the rest of it. We see Rock Chestplate, one of the newer cards actually, says this fighting Pokemon this card's attached to takes 3 less damage from attacks. Very strong tool card. Pretty strong, I would say, in most situations. The Great Tusk or the Koraidon would like this. The only problem is you're probably not going to be surviving a hit anyway because you have so low hit points to start with, but could be good potentially if we get any more like tanky fighting Pokemon. I guess Great Tusk has like 250 base, what am I saying? But like, you probably want a Choice Belt on that guy or a Defiant Band. You don't want a Rock Chestplate. So this would have to compete with other tools that are arguably superior. So yeah, Rock Chestplate going to have a tough time breaking it in. But we see EXP Share, which is, I think, a good option for the Dondozo deck. We also see Defiant Band, which says if you have more prize cards remaining your opponent, this Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage. Very strong tool card. I think this could definitely see a lot of play. kind of a counteract to the fact that Choice Belt doesn't hit EX Pokemon, so Defiant Band could be your modifier to reach EX hit points. Then we see a Jock. For some reason, everyone says this is like worse Azura, when in fact this says find 2 evolution Pokemon cards, meaning this guy will find your EX Pokemon, which is pretty big in a format without evolution incense or anything like communication, so do bear in Jock in mind if you don't like using Ultra Ball. We have Team Star Grunt that says put an energy attached to your opponent's active on top of their deck. Pretty decent, especially if we factor in like the wugtrio that can start milling our fools. So yeah, I don't hate Team Star Grunt. I think it's better to return it to the top of their deck than return it to their hand, but yeah, should be okay. Professor's Research, discard your hand, draw 7 is what it is. Penny, return one of your basic Pokemon in play and all cards attached to it to your hand. Very solid effect, but just depends on what basic we're using and how easy it is to set them up. And then Beach Court says retreat cost of each player's basic Pokemon is colorless less, just when you thought Lost Box was going away. So yeah, that's going to be it for the Scarlet translations. Let me know what you think down below. It's been Ember Power, and thank you for watching.